Let's simplify the complex fraction 3 over 4 divided by 5 over 8. Now what we want to do is separate this into two different fractions. Now notice this division bar we can write as a division, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write that as a division. It is 3 over 4 divided by 5 over 8. To divide fractions, we go ahead and flip over the second fraction. So we're going to make it 8 over 5. So we get 3 over 4. When we flip it, we write it as the reciprocal, and that turns it into multiplication. 8 over 5. Then we can do some simplification. We can do 8 divided by 4, and we'll get 2. And that's all the simplification we can do. Then we just multiply across. 3 times 2, on the numerator we have 3 times 2, we get 6. And in the denominator, we had the 4 cancel, we just got a 1 there. 1 times 5, we get 5. That would be our simplified version of this complex fraction. Let's look at another example. Here we have x divided by 2, all divided by xy over 6. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take this division bar and rewrite it as a division of two fractions. So I'm going to get x divided by 2 divided by xy over 6. Then we do the same thing. We go ahead and take that second fraction, since it's division of fractions, and we flip it to the reciprocal and multiply. We'll leave the first fraction all alone, x divided by 2. We rewrite that, make it multiplication, 6 divided by xy. We're ready to start simplifying. 6 is 3 times 2, right? So we can cancel out the 2's and just left with a 3 in the numerator at the top there. Here we have an x on the top in the numerator and an x in the denominator on the bottom. We can cancel those two out, and we write what we have left over. On the top we have a 3, and in the denominator we have a y. That's our simplified version of that complex fraction. Let's look at another example here. Again, we're going to view this as division. So I'm going to write the first fraction, negative 8 over 21, divided by 12 over 35. And again, we take this second fraction, we rewrite it, we flip it over. The first one we leave alone. This converts it into the reciprocal, and we multiply 35 over 12. Now we're ready to do some simplification. I'm going to write it as factors. There's a lot of simplification here, so I'm going to rewrite it into some factors. So the 8. I'm going to leave the negative sign alone for now. Negative 8 I can rewrite as 4 times 2. The 21 I can rewrite as 3 times 7. The 35 I can rewrite the 35 as 5 times 7. And the 12 I can rewrite as 3 times 4. Then I'm ready to do some cancellation. I see we have a 7 and a 7, a 4 and a 4, and the 3's we don't cancel. They're both in the denominator, so we leave those alone. And then we're ready to multiply. We get negative 2 times 5. We're going to leave the negative right in front of the fraction, actually. And just do the 2 times 5, we get 10. And 3 times 3, we get 9. And that'll be our simplified version of this complex fraction. Let's look at another example here. We have negative 4 over 5 divided by 2. Now notice here in the denominator of the larger fraction we're missing something, and I'm going to write it over 1 to keep it consistent. Dividing by 1 doesn't change anything, so I just put a 1 on the bottom there. And then now it's back in the form we're used to that we just did a few examples on. And we do the same thing. Negative 4 over 5, change it into division, and we get 2 over 1. Oh, made that too big. 2 over 1. We go ahead and flip it around. Get negative 4 over 5. Turn it into its reciprocal and multiply. So 1 over 2. Then do some cancellation. Well, 2 goes into 4 twice. And that's all we can do. And we get negative 2 times 1. We get a negative 2. I'm going to write that negative right next to the fraction, and then a 5 on the bottom is all we have. And that's our simplified version of this complex fraction. Let's look at another example here. M divided by 3 divided by n over 2. And we can have some variables here. It doesn't change the process. Again, we're going to take that division bar. Just make it a division, right? So we get m divided by 3 divided by n over 2. And again, we take that second fraction and flip and multiply right as the reciprocal. M over 3 times 2 over n. And there's nothing really to cancel here, so we just go ahead and multiply them out. M times 2, we get 2m. And 3 times n, we get 3n. And that's our simplified version of this complex fraction.